To Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. Over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Get a head start in your summer reading. The locally owned Next Chapter Booksellers has an expansive collection that includes the latest bestsellers, classic novels, and more. The friendly staff is great at making recommendations for just about anyone. And with holidays, birthdays, and graduations coming up, a book, game, or puzzle from Next Chapter Booksellers makes the perfect gift. Plus, Next Chapter Booksellers hosts events like author signings and book clubs. So stop in and browse the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Get ready for the best and biggest fireworks selection at Fireworks City in Baldwin, Wisconsin. And now they have exciting news. Free stuff is back with a $200 or more purchase. But that's not all. They're bringing back their incredible get 3 for 1 low price deal on all multi-shot cakes. Stock up on these incredible multi-shot cakes and get 3 for the price of 1. At Fireworks City, we're your one-stop shop for all your firework needs. Located just 25 minutes from St. Paul, it's worth a short drive on I-94 to exit 19. And here's the best part. Buy one, get one for 99 cents on every firework. Don't just take their word for it. See all the fireworks in action on one of their many TVs. Experience the excitement firsthand and make an informed choice. Bring your family and friends and head over to Fireworks City in Baldwin, Wisconsin. Exit 19 off Interstate 94. Fireworks City guarantees a fun and family-friendly atmosphere. The best deal on fireworks is waiting for you. Buy one, get one for 99 cents.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Partly cloudy with smoky conditions overnight with a low of 53. Then sunshine with smoky conditions on Friday with a high of 81. 30 Bales celebrates the best of what Midwestern cuisine has to offer. Located in Hopkins at the corner of Main Street and 11th Avenue with plenty of free parking. Visit their website at 30bales.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, any cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, and I saw a nice shirt, Robert, by the way. Hey, ho.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I'd wear it since it's Pride Month.
That's right. Every month's Pride Month. No,
yeah, I'm just here.
That's nice. Nice shirt. Hey, what a day. I know you and I have talked. We were at the Four Sisters market, which was very successful. A lot of people, and it's crazy, Robert. I see different people show up different times, and that's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. It's a great crowd today. We some of the folks, the early folks that you see there, are waiting in line for Bob Rice at Powwow Grounds to bring his fresh fry bread in. Yeah, they know exactly when it's going to come in, so they're all standing around waiting in line. And then today we had just such a good day with a food demonstration. There was a great crowd for that. A young Native chef, Derek Nicholas, who works for Division of Indian Works here in the city of Minneapolis, does a food demo so people can learn how to cook with the produce that we're selling in the market, or that the vendors are selling. And then he has lots of cultural teachings and stuff. It's really cool to see this young man. Come on, he's done demonstrations there last year as well, but this year he really has it tight, and his delivery's great, and his cultural teachings are great. And then there's a lot of media around. I'm sure we're going to get to talking about ICWA, but there was news media coming to get a reaction from people in the community on the ICWA ruling. And we had a Hennepin County, that's the county we're in, a film crew that was down there that's doing a piece on our Four Sisters Farmers Market and Four Sisters Farm. It was just a happening place.
Yeah, I love it, and I just love stopping in there for a couple hours and hanging out. And what is interesting, I don't know, Robert. I know you were there listening to the. I want to look this up, but do you remember what he talked about? The water and talking to the water.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And I'm going to do some follow up too, Robert. It was this young man. We're talking about water and the importance of water, of course, and water is life. But then the young chef, Derek, talked about some Japanese researcher that did some kind of research where he'd take some water and speak positively and reverently and lovingly to it. And then he'd take some water and speak harshly and hatefully to it, and then freeze them. And they had very different properties. And the water that was loved was crystal and beautiful, and the water that was hated wasn't.
Yeah. And I've heard that, and Wendy will be talking later today about how our animals and our relatives, like our dogs, can sense good and bad people, and that's almost in the same line,
Kind
the
of in that
water.
line. Right. And then, the young chef, Derek, was pointing out that our bodies are mostly water, right? And so kind of what we say to ourselves, what we say to our bodies, the impacts that might have. And that was really interesting.
And he said 70% of the earth is water too, and he said
Right.
70% of us is water, and it's all connected, and I was
Yeah.
just like, "Wow."
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I was sitting next to a community elder, Linda Eagle speaker here, and it was just, I bet she thinks that's pretty cool to hear someone as young as this chef telling these lessons. Yeah, that was really meaningful, and the food was delicious. I don't know if you got a chance to taste it.
Well, I went up and tried, what is it? The top of, darn it, what plant is that for, butterflies? Help me.
Milkweed. Yeah.
Yeah, she was handing out,
Cool.
samples of that, and I asked them because I remember when my family was poor and they would talk about this, is that they'd go by the freeway and pick milkweed so
Oh,
we could make soup,
sure.
and, you can put soup anything into soup, so that's what but it was just
Cool.
like, yeah, milkweed, wow.
Yeah, we did a fair amount of foraging when I was a kid, but not that. We didn't do
Yeah.
milkweed. But
Well, hey, let's jump into today's celebration because this is, I was interviewed by WCCO about ICWA, and it was interesting the question they asked me, and I think they asked the next person too. And it was about does this affect anybody that you know? And
right,
my answer was it affects the next 7 generations,
right, right.
that's what we're really, and so it was really interesting because again, our white allies maybe don't know exactly what, and that's why we talk about it here a lot on this progressive radio station all across Turtle Island, is it's affecting us and our sovereignty. And but what an exciting day.
It's a huge day, just huge. And I was in a meeting. I mean, it might have been a Zoom meeting even when the news flashed across. The ruling came out, and I just interrupted the meeting and everything. And I'm like, ICWA holds, or
Yeah.
I was just amazed, and just you saw it on social media, certainly at the market, just
Mhm.
a real sense of celebration. And you were interviewed at the market today by one of our local TV stations, as you said, WCCO TV. It's a CBS affiliate here. the most watched station in the state or something like that. So it's a big deal. But I will tell you this, Robert. They reached out to our organization, NACD, Native American Community Development Institute. We get a lot of media we're kind of high profile, right? So media will reach out to us and then we'll kind of direct them to others. But they really wanted to come down to the market and get the response from people in the community. And we just made it really clear to them, these can be triggering issues. These have impacted our families, and that you can't just run up and shove a microphone in someone's face and start asking them questions. And they were very respectful.
Yeah.
And they came and they kind of stood aside, and then we helped, recruit people for them to talk to. And I was pretty impressed with the way that they behaved.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a union shop, and I always appreciate that. WCCO has always been a union shop, and I've had friends over the years work there. And as you might, your father worked for CBS, not CBS, but WCCO when it was owned by a local, and the radio.
But it was still and it was the CBS affiliate then.
Yeah,
a good labor shop. I grew up in a good union household.
Yeah.
But the whole ICWA ruling, and just I've just been finally reading. I had kind of a busy day, and so just been kind of reading about the ruling and the majority and minority positions and the arguments and things. And I have a hunch that this is going to be a stepping off point for a much broader conversation about sovereignty and tribal rights than I feel like we've had in a while.
Well, it's a reaffirmation, and I think that's what's really exciting for me to hear. I think the news that was just on before our show, it was a number one news part, but it was also a matter of factly put out there that this was not this almost like this is what should be the way, and I appreciate that because it's not sensationalized if they're following the treaties and the laws that they've made.
Right. There's a different ruling could have undone centuries of Indian law, right? And policies, the ones that actually protect us, to a degree. So this was a huge, huge ruling.
We'll talk a little bit about that, a little more about that, and it was a 7-2 vote, and we'll talk a little bit more, and then get talking about the avenue and what you're doing, and just a day of celebration. And it's great to have you on, Robert Lilligren. All right, we'll be right back after this short message, please. This is Native Roots Radio.
Stay with us.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
On Saturday, June 17th, Metro Transit is making changes to transit service within your community. As they do each quarter, they review and analyze their resources and ridership trends. These service adjustments to routes continue Metro Transit's ongoing work to best serve customers throughout their system with their given resources. A summary of the upcoming service changes and a preview of the updated schedules are available now at metrotransit.org. That's metrotransit.org.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
When it comes to houses, disassembly is our game, deconstruction is our fame. There are some bucks for your project. Better Futures Minnesota is your contact.
Instead of demolishing your home, let us take it apart by hand, and we can find the building materials a new home. Limited funds are allotted in 2023 for Hennepin County residents and public entities to make deconstruction even more affordable. Check out betterfuturesminnesota.com. That's betterfuturesminnesota.com.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Development Institute in Minneapolis.
We just so happen to have the president and CEO of the Native American Community Development Institute on today, and we're talking a little ICWA and a little for grandmother's flea market and thing, and I'm just really overwhelmed, Robert. I'm stumbly mumbly right now.
What'd you say?
Right.
Grandmother's market, Digga? Four sisters?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I was kind of wondering where you're going there, Robert, but a lot of people were really moved today, moved to tears, when the ICWA ruling came down. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And what an example of our communities and our nations coming together, organizing, the activism, the advocacy, the outreach, the letters. I can't remember, I read how many tribes. It was pretty much all of them, submitted friend of the court letters. I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazing mobilization.
And Robert, I just got to say this too. I was worried, and especially after the last Supreme Court decisions that have been happening this last year and a half, I was really, really worried, and that's why I'm so happy today.
Right. And even during the arguments, I mean, the vote was so lopsided. It's so encouraging, 7-2 in our favor. And when oral arguments were made, last November, I think it was, many of the justices seemed very skeptical. Those who ended up voting in our favor, Kavanaugh being one of them, seemed very skeptical. It seemed like for sure he was going to vote the other way. And then that Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote the majority position. And she voted on the right side and then wrote the majority position. For me, and maybe this is my own limitations, that was kind of surprising.
Well, I read that and almost cried. It's almost beautiful. That's what should be read instead of a land acknowledgement. That was pretty crazy how beautifully that was written.
Good point. That's a really good point. And that it just affirms Native sovereignty, right? And a different outcome would have destroyed it, or at least been the first kind of pin or another pin that falls before others do. So yeah, good day.
Yeah, they must have did their reading. They must have did their reading because I was out there too, and I wasn't inside the court, but they had the live audio outside the Supreme Court, and it seemed to me that a lot of the judges did not know the law, so they possibly read up on this and voted it in a correct way. Because I was feeling pretty kind of low when I heard their questions.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right, and it's been discussed before how little many judges, including Supreme Court justices, know about Indian law. And so I think you're exactly right. This is a step forward with the Supreme Court, and I would say by association all lower courts, in the understanding of Indian law and Native sovereignty. And that's, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll keep benefiting us for a while.
It was interesting for me in what was reported, so I'm not making this up, that a lot of the oil companies were backing this up with their lawyers and paying for the lawyers to go to the Supreme Court. So when we're getting attacked on sovereignty, water is life and all those things where there's pipelines going through your backyard and just disrespect for the mother earth, that was really concerning to hear that.
So what you're saying is they were paying for the plaintiffs, right? They were supporting the case. Is that
Right.
yeah, right. So they were
Yeah.
trying to attack sovereignty, right? No, uh, for sure. And then what's the attitude, or what's the word? The kind of cavalier attitude
Mhm.
toward the opposition on what it means to be native, and like
Right.
of course the underpinnings of the plaintiff's argument was that this was a race-based decision. And so the decision handed down today acknowledges this isn't about race. This is about
Right.
political status and identity.
And that's something I'd like you to explain just a little bit better to our audience, because that gets lost a lot of in a lot of not only arguments, but just knowledge out there, the difference between, those 2 and how important it is that we are who we are.
Right. Well, it is fundamental, right, to who we are. And I'm probably not the best person to explain the nuances here. But I remember, as I was on my journey, I would have elders or other Native people, activists, kind of come down hard if you talked about Native people in a racial framework. And they would
Mhm.
say, "This isn't race. We are a sovereign people. This is a political identity,
Right.
not a racial one." And I guess in my youth, I didn't quite get why that was so important or nuanced. Now I understand it better, I think. And
Right.
and we have a special status, right? We have a special
Right.
status here as the victims of colonization, as the victims of land theft, culture theft, language theft, forced assimilation. We are sovereign people. It's not
Right.
just an issue of race. And you could see that coming through. Justices were understanding that. You could see that
Yeah.
in what they said in their what they've said since the ruling was handed down.
Well, that's exciting too, and it's a respect for, as if we were or France or any other
Right.
sovereign nation across the world, and that's the key. It's not
Right.
you're a French race
Right.
or whatever.
Right. Right. One of the arguments made for the plaintiffs was that there are issues of Native children being adopted out of the Native cultures, and and the sentence was something like, even if they've never stepped foot on reservation land, as if somehow that mattered. That was the point, and
Huh.
if I had never stepped foot on white earth, can I still be considered a sovereign white earth citizen? Kind of is what they're asking. Well, of course I can.
Well, especially that this land was all ours before before colonization.
That's
That's
an
just like
exact.
what?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is a huge day, and I'm guessing we'll see reverberations and repercussions, positive ones, through the judicial system based on this today, and through our culture, through our culture. The president's weighed in, breathing a sigh of relief. So yeah,
Yeah.
a good day.
Well, and what's interesting too, is with, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but the Minnesota law to preserve, ICWA. I know it isn't got ICWA in there, but, I wanted to call it Mi'kwa, but it's not Mi'kwa. It's called something else. That, Arnold, or, what's his name, who was with ICWA, was part of the suing of ICWA and was in the
Oh yeah,
documentary
right,
Blood
right.
Memory.
Blood
He's,
memory.
like, was all, like, mad about the way the Minnesota law went, so, hey, hey,
Right.
hey, we
So
got
this is a native lawyer, right, that you're talking about, who was
right,
anti-ICWA. He,
yeah.
so I'm looking up
Leonard,
his.
or what was his name?
Hold on, I'm trying to find it right now, really quickly. Let's see if I'm able.
Uh,
Eh, but
Mark Leonard or something like that?
yeah. So, but I mean, to your point, the big deal thing was that our state legislature here in Minneapolis,
Mhm.
or in Minnesota rather, in St. Paul actually, but in Minnesota, passed statutory protections reinforcing the ICWA protections in expectation that ICWA would be overturned. So
Yeah,
it's just an example of how, first off, representation matters, right? We have enough Native
right.
people in our legislature and in our state house to do that, but also how great it is to live in Minnesota politically right now with our Democratic trifecta at the state capitol. They were able to do that. So had ICWA been overturned, Minnesotans would have still enjoyed the protections.
Well, I was MC of the Wisconsin Democratic Convention this last
Oh
weekend.
yeah, how did that go?
Well, I pronounced every name right. You'll be proud of me.
Wow,
And there were some
impressive.
Polish names in there that were a little tricky. And but Minnesota was talked about a lot, I guess is my point. And Amy Klobuchar was the speaker, the guest surprise speaker at the end. But there's talk about how great things are happening here. So all across, not only Obama mentioning this a little while ago, a few days ago, but everybody that's a Democrat is seeing the great things that are happening here in Minnesota.
Right. And to their credit, the legislature, Governor Waltz, our native Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan are getting some good bones nationally. People can see, this is what happens when you have unified democratic government. And Minnesota, sort of a swing state, but really, I think we're going to play a prominent place in the narrative in the 2024 elections, because I think people are getting very tired of what's happening in DC, and I think a lot of voters are going to say, "Oh, wow, we could be like Minnesota. We could, we could pass good laws if we elected the right people."
And we can be like Minnesota natives and vote and make voting a tradition.
Yeah, that one of our signature projects at NACD, make voting a tradition.
Right on. Hey, Robert, thanks for had the great discussion today at the Four Sisters Market, and a great show tonight as always. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you, Haley. Nice to see you, Robert. Gigawabaman.
Good to see you, Pina Gigi.
All right. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Up next, Wendy. Hoa.
Stay with us.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas will help you get where you want to go. Located in downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality at Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas. Apply today at dfc.stthomas.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
I'm Patty Vasquez, and I'm thrilled to be the newest addition to AM 950's lineup, weeknights at 11 p.m. As a talk show host, comedian, actor, and writer, I'll bring you laughter and insight. Join me as we tackle important issues and empower you to make a difference at the local level. From highlighting talented artists to showcasing inspiring activists, we'll celebrate their work and ignite positive change together. So join me, Patty Vasquez, weeknights at 11 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, this is Robert Pilot. I taught in St. Paul Public Schools for over 25 years, and I want you to join the team and make a difference in our children's future. Right now, St. Paul Public Schools is offering hiring and retention bonuses up to $10,000 for a variety of teaching and classroom support positions for the next school year. Grow in a supportive and fulfilling public school setting. Limited bonuses are available, so don't delay. Apply at spps.org/careers. When it comes to mental health, connections with others can be a way forward. How do you reach out when you need someone? What do you do to support those who struggle? Whether you're struggling or know someone who struggles, See connections as comfort, hope, and joy, like sending a text, sharing a moment, offering a hug, seeing an old friend, seeing your grandma. Together we can find ways to create a path forward. Visit cmentalhealth.org. Visit cmentalhealth.org.
On Saturday, June 17th, Metro Transit is making changes to transit service within your community. As they do each quarter, they review and analyze their resources and ridership trends. These service adjustments to routes continue Metro Transit's ongoing work to best serve customers throughout their system with their given resources. A summary of the upcoming service changes and a preview of the updated schedules are available now at metrotransit.org. That's metrotransit.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Partly cloudy with smoky conditions overnight with a low of 53, then sunshine with smoky conditions on Friday with a high of 81. 30 Bales celebrates the best of what Midwestern cuisine has to offer. Located in Hopkins at the corner of Main Street and 11th Avenue with plenty of free parking. Visit their website at 30bales.com.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we're doing 2 segments here with Wendy, my awesome and beautiful wife. Wendy's been an animal advocate for many years, and she discusses our sacred native animals here all across Turtle Island. And welcome, Wendy, as always.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Hanajihi. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level, and it's always my pleasure to do that. Today, I want to talk to you about something I've been seeing a lot on the internet and on Facebook. So there's an ingredient, it's a sweetener, and it's out there. It's called xylitol. It's spelled Xylitol, and it's very dangerous if your dog gets into it. It can cause liver damage and death. But here's the thing. It's very commonly found in some peanut butters. And I know a lot of people like to give their dogs peanut butter. So check that label and make sure it does not have any xylitol. It's also found in chewing gum. A lot of chewing gum have this ingredient, and also ice cream. The other thing that we found out is that Benadryl gel caps, now a lot of people give Benadryl to their dogs to like calm them down, or if they get a bee sting, right? Or they have itchy skin. So dogs do take Benadryl, but the gel caps have xylitol in them, right? And that also can be really dangerous, but the regular pink tablets of the Benadryl are very safe. You can give that, no problem. So this ingredient, xylitol, is a sweetener that it's found in a wide variety of products, but here's this tricky thing. It goes by other names that sound like natural ingredients, including wood sugar. So if you see wood sugar, birch sugar, and birch bark extract. So if you see those other names, it's also xylitol. I think that is so tricky because it gives the product, to me, my personal opinion, like a more organic, safe type of a less chemical name, right? So xylitol, it also goes by wood sugar, birch sugar, and birch bark extract. So keep an eye out for that. Do not give any of the ingredients, any foods or ice cream or peanut butters or anything else that have those ingredients in it. So since I'm really talking about this, I know we've talked about this before, but I think it's important to know. And since we're on the subject of not trying to poison your dog, let's talk about other foods that you should not give your dog. So onions and garlic. You should not give your dogs onions or garlic.
Or your wife. No garlic.
Yeah, right, because of the breath, right? Or you could have some in self-defense, right? You could have some, yeah. So onions and garlic in something, in a very small ingredient, if you're just using it very small in an ingredient, it is safe. But ingestion of large quantities can result in damage to red blood cells as well as gastrointestinal distress. So signs of ingestion include panting, loose stools, high heart rate, and blood in the urine. So store onions and garlic out of the reach of the pets, out of reach of your dog, to prevent this toxic dose. House plants. We have to really be careful with house plants, especially with our dogs and cats too. So there are nearly 400 common household plants that are poisonous when chewed by dogs. I know one for cats is lilies. You should never have lilies around. They say even smelling the pollen from a lily can be really dangerous for your cat. Daisies, lantana, and periwinkle are among those that can cause vomiting, liver failure, and death. So be really careful about that. And you could look up a whole list. You could just Google that and look at house plants that are dangerous for your dogs and cats. So you want to be careful. Chocolate, that's another one, right? Chocolate's a bad one. The most
Milk
common
chocolate, right?
source. Yeah, this is the most common source of poisoning among dogs. Chocolate can be dangerous in low quantities depending on the level of the stimulant methoxylamine. So you want to be careful with that. Baking chocolate and cocoa containing the highest levels, followed by dark milk and white chocolate. So yeah, I just want to see. I wasn't pronouncing that right. Methyl xylene.
Close enough.
Yeah. So just be careful of that. Yeah. So ingestion can lead to pancreatitis in dogs, a condition which can lead to the pancreas becoming inflamed and leads to such symptoms as diarrhea, panting, seizures, excessive thirst, and urination. Caffeine, that's a really bad one. Like chocolate, caffeine also has the same ingredient. So coffee, tea, soda, all contain that. So we want to be really careful of that. Grapes and raisins. I see sometimes people giving their dogs grapes. Grapes and their dehydrated form, raisins, can lead to renal, which is kidney failure, if consumed by dogs. So we want you to be really careful and do not give your dogs any grapes or raisins. Dairy products. Dogs are lactose intolerant.
Wow.
Yeah. So meaning they do not process the enzymes necessary to break down the sugar in dairy products known as lactose. This undigested sugar can cause digestion issues, including diarrhea. So it is as advised to avoid feeding milk, cheese, or ice cream to your dog. So you want to be careful about that. So this is kind of funny. They mention macadamia nuts. A common ingredient in sweets such as cookies, macadamia nuts are highly poisonous to dogs, resulting in weakness, hyperthermia, and vomiting when ingested. So no macadamia nuts. You know what? I have an allergic reaction to macadamia nuts. When I eat them, I get like a rash and itchiness in my mouth and tongue.
Ew.
Yeah. Chicken bones. So both raw and cooked chicken bones are not easily digested and can cause blockages or punctures in the digestive tracts of dogs. In addition to these obvious dangers, raw bones and meat carry harmful bacteria such as Salmonella and E. coli, which can cause dogs to fall ill. So don't give your dog any chicken bones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Avocados. I was just going to have an avocado. Yeah. So avocado pits contain a naturally occurring fungicide called persin, which is mildly toxic to some breeds. This substance can enter the flesh or the skin of the fruit, and is its consumption by dogs can result in diarrhea, vomiting if consumed in large quantities. So be careful of that. Wow, peach and plum pits also.
Any kind of pit, it seems like, has that arsenic in it, or what is it called?
I would be really careful with pits. Peach and plum pits. They're also very. They contain deadly poison called cyanide. We all heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
from Breaking Bad.
Number 11 is the xylitol, which we just mentioned, right? So you want to be careful of the xylitol products. Raw eggs. This is funny because I see a lot of people putting raw eggs and giving raw eggs to their dogs, but it says here that the harmful bacteria Salmonella in raw eggs, it's not advised for consumption by dogs. So we don't really want to do that also. There's also an enzyme called avidin that interferes with vitamin B metabolism from the egg, which can lead to a problematic skin and hair conditions, among others.
Yeah.
So don't give your dog. Also, raw fish. No raw fish.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stay away from the raw stuff. Cooked fish, however, they say is a good source of protein, but several species of fish are inhabited by parasites that can cause fatal conditions in dogs.
Wow.
So, I mean, I know like a lot of people, like with sushi, you know, raw fish, like if you're pregnant, you're not supposed to have any of that because of the parasites.
In the iron, maybe too, or no, pretty much
in
parasites.
The fish. Yeah, the parasites in the fish, the uncooked fish. Well, I don't eat fish whether it's cooked or not.
Wow.
And then human medication. You want to be really careful not to let your dog have any known medication or pills that is not prescribed for them. I know one of the most dangerous drugs for a dog over the counter, which we take all the time, is very commonly ibuprofen, which is Motrin or Advil.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is really, dangerous to the dogs. Also, we want to really, really be careful of household cleaners. And that goes without saying. It's harmful to humans and to dogs. So we want to keep all those household cleaners away. We always hear every year too, dogs drinking antifreeze, right?
Yeah, because it's sweet tasting or something.
Yeah, I don't know. So they really do that. So we just want to be careful, keep in mind what we're giving our little furry friends here, dogs and cats, and be careful of the house plants and the foods.
Yeah, that antifreeze, bring that up again because people leave that sometimes in their garage and the dog gets in the garage.
Yeah, or they'll spill a little while they're putting it in the radiator, and then it's
the what?
The radiator, and then it spills on the ground, and then the dog licks it up. That one's a very common one. We hear about dogs going into the hospital and having their stomach pumped and having, really bad time with antifreeze. So, yep, keep your pets free. That's it. Wanda, no grapes for you.
Right on. Hey, up next, Wendy Pilot. Again, we're going to talk some more animal segments here. We're excited. We'll be right back after this short message. Stay.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Your Blue Line Extension Project wants to hear from you. We are working on extending the Blue Line light rail into North Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park, and connecting it to our growing transit system. Tell us about your neighborhood, your business, your family, and what you need from your Blue Line. Learn more and share more of your story at yourblueline.org. That's yourblueline.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on site from the best coffee growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
When it comes to mental health, making connections with others can be a way forward. How do you reach out when you need someone? What do you do to support those who struggle? Connections can bring comfort, hope, and joy. Find ways that work for yourself and others, like sending a text, sharing a moment, offering a hug, seeing an old friend, creating space to listen. Visit cmentalhealth.org. That's cmentalhealth.org. cmentalhealth.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
There's that wolf. Hey, welcome back, Wendy. Thank you so much for doing a couple segments here. I really appreciate it. And I know our listening audience appreciates it too, because you bring us information that I've never heard anywhere else, really.
Yeah, well, in the last segment, I was talking about poisonous foods and plants for dogs. And the one word I just wanted to talk to you about that I was mispronouncing was methylxanthines.
What?
Methylxanthines.
Okay.
And these are a common source of poison that if you give to your dogs, they could die. So it is in chocolate, mostly baking chocolate. Cocoa and cocoa have the highest levels of methylxanthines. Also caffeinated coffee, caffeinated tea, or even caffeinated sodas. So you want to stay away from all that, from giving that to your dog, because that ingredient in those things could be dangerous.
It's crazy. When we were kids, we fed our dogs everything. Right?
And they all lived, right? I know.
Lived longer.
I know. When I was a kid, like, we never took our dogs to the vet or our cat to the vet. We got a cat. We were lucky even if we got it spay or neutered, right? And it never went to the vet. And they lived forever. I remember I had a cat, a great Snoopy. I had a cat named Snoopy. Isn't that funny?
Boy.
But anyway, we had a cat named Snoopy, and we got this cat. He showed up at our house one day. And that was it. I think we got him neutered. We might not have. I mean, I was a little kid. This was like in the late 60s.
Nobody got their cats neutered back then.
I don't think we did.
No one did.
And he was an outdoor cat. You know, he went in and out of the house. And he lived till he was a ripe old, I don't know, he was like 20 years old, the cat.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was crazy. So it's different now. You know, we have a overpopulation of cats and dogs, and we need to do that. It's really important. Like Bob Barker would always say.
Bob Barker's still alive, by the way, and he's Native American. Did you know that?
I know. We were watching that. The Price is Right, like a documentary, right?
Let's not get into that hole, but that was an awesome documentary. I just got to say that.
Well, speaking of documentaries, it was not a documentary, but what I watched not too long ago on Netflix, it was a movie, made up movie about Ted Bundy, the serial killer.
Was he vegan? No, I'm just kidding.
Very funny. So it's called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. And it's on Netflix. And it was really about, it was, of course, about Ted Bundy and what he did. But really what it was about Liz, the single mom who fell in love with him and was his girlfriend for years and years and years. And that their story, like, and how she never wanted to believe any of these stories, you know, when he was found out about doing all these horrible murders. She just didn't want to believe it. But what happened was they lived together. I'm not sure whether they got married or not, but anyway, they lived together, and she wanted to get a dog, and they went down to the pound. They went to the pound and they were looking at this one dog that she really wanted, and they bent down to look at the dog. And I don't know if this is in real true life or they just made it for the movie, but the dog started really growling and went down on the ground when Ted Bundy was looking at the dog.
Well, they say that the victims that survived it, that his eyes were black and evil.
Yeah, it's really something.
I
But I
believe
have
it.
this article here. It's from the animal rescue site by Greater Good News. And science confirms that dogs can recognize a bad person. And I think we've talked about this before in the show. Sometimes we get a sense about somebody, right, that we feel that they might be bad news. That doesn't mean we're right. But oddly enough, the same isn't true for dogs. When they sense that a person may be somebody to avoid, science says that their instincts are spot on, right? We all know that dogs have an incredible sense of smell. That's why they're sometimes used as they sniff out drugs or bombs or to protect our first responders. But a dog can actually recognize factors that make up a person's personality, according to a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews. Specifically, they can sense when a person is being mean to another person.
Whoa.
Yeah. To find out if dogs can sense meanness, the scientists looked at a typical reactions dogs have to different events. Quote, dogs are known to hold on, let me read this again. Dogs are known to consistently follow human pointing gestures. In this study, we asked whether dogs automatically do this or whether they flexibly adjust their behavior depending upon the reliability of the pointer demonstrated in an immediate preceding event. So I'm going to explain what that all means because that's really confusing, right?
Right.
In the study, the dogs went through a variety of different scenarios. In one of them, a volunteer was helping another person open a jar that was tightly sealed while the dog was present. In another variation, the volunteer was passive. In yet another variation, the volunteer refused to help at all. After the dog observed the behavior, the volunteer would try to give the dog a treat. The volunteer who helped open the jar and the passive volunteer were equally as likely to be successful in giving the dog a treat. However, if the volunteer was nice, the dog was much more likely to take the treat from their hand. But when the volunteer who didn't offer the help to open the jar tried to offer the dog a treat, the dog ignored them. The dog didn't trust the person who was mean. Right? So the dog took the treat from the people, two other nice people and the person who was helping them, but the person who didn't want to help the person open the jar, he didn't want to.
Yeah, we've always talked about that, but this is like proof. I think we joked about it.
Exactly. This shows incredible perception. The dog could get the treat free and clear, but he refused because he sensed that person was not nice. It really says a lot about their ability to judge someone in just one interaction.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have to take notice when we're around our dog. If the dog seems really judgmental about a person that we don't really know, that we really should steer clear of that person.
Well, and I just have to say this: certain dogs, excuse me, because as you know, Wanda's my dog when you're in New York or not in the house, but when you're up sleeping, she's protecting you and barks at me.
I know that. It's really funny. And you know what, Robert? We've had a lot of people here in the radio studio in our house.
Right.
And Wanda has sat on everybody's lap.
Yeah, everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody's able to pet her and
That's
talk to
right.
her. And most people, and it's funny too, even when I'm walking with her in the neighborhood, most of the time she ignores people when we walk by them, unless they have a dog with them, then she'll
Right.
bark. But generally, when we're just walking and we're passing people, she just passes by them without anything. But sometimes she'll growl and bark. So it's like, why is she growling and barking at that one person that we're passing by, right? So
Well,
keep an eye on your dogs.
We had a Chihuahua that didn't like children. Do you remember that?
Chihuahuas don't like a lot of people.
Hey, thanks, Wendy, for doing 2 segments here.
Yeah.
Always really appreciative. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Please.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Now.
Right on. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with State Senator Mary Kunish and Wendy. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I just like saying that. Go ahead, Wendy. You're going to say something. No?
No, I was going to say free Leonard Peltier.
Now.